I saw his power shatter. The ritual my grandfather, Walter Whitaker, had designed to break me crumbled with a single fall. He had trained a man for it. But when blood was spilled the wrong way, his own rules declared it over. His final act of dominance ended not in victory, but in silence, his hands trembling on a throne that was slipping away. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. When I turned 10, I entered the chalk circle for the first time. Surrounded by cousins and chanting uncles, I was told to hit Lise, my best friend. I hesitated. Walter's glare nailed me in place. One punch, then two. Blood hit the floor, and a feast followed. That was the law. Blood earned food. That night, I chewed roast pork while Louise wept nearby. I didn't feel full, just sick, and Walter smiled like he'd won twice. At 13, I was made to clean a circle after each fight. Blood, teeth, sometimes pieces of ear. Walter called it earning manhood. My mom watched from the porch, silent. She'd flinch at each slap, but never stepped in. That silence taught me the rules louder than his belt ever did. Each time I scrubbed the cement, I imagined my name carved beneath it. That's when I started hiding my journal pages under floorboards. Behind vents, we faked our bruises with makeup and padding. Roberto taught us how for weeks, fights became performances. Walter didn't notice at first. He only cared about the blood. Vincent slipped packets of fake plasma into his socks. Then Miguel got caught filming us laughing after a staged match. Walter smashed the phone. Miguel cried. Roberto cleaned the blood with bare hands. That night, Walter reinstated random strip checks. Our game was officially over. Lise changed after that. He trained harder, quieter, no jokes, just bruises. Vincent warned me Lise was next, and Walter expected blood for real. I tried to talk to Lise during cleanup. He didn't answer, just stared at the chalk, fists clenched. I left a fake bruise kit in his locker. It disappeared. But so did Lisa's smile. That week, he broke a cousin's nose. No faking, no pause, just pain. Roberto found Louise burning one of our journals in the fire pit. He said it's over. Roberto whispered. He's scared they'll find it. That night, we moved all our notes over 50 pages to Miguel's attic. Maria helped. She said nothing, but the way she locked the door behind us, she understood. When we left, she handed me a rosary. For your soul, she said. I tucked it inside my shoe. Miguel's attic got raided. Someone snitched. The journals were gone, shelves overturned, and Miguel's name painted red on the garage door. Traitor. Walter didn't confront us. He didn't need to. Everyone knew. That night, Miguel and his family disappeared. No warning, no goodbyes. Roberto blamed himself. Vincent shut down. I stayed awake, staring at the rosary in my hand. Fake blood dried on my skin. The silence felt like a funeral. My 18th birthday fight was announced at dinner. Walter raised his glass, called it the coronation. Maria dropped her spoon. Luis didn't blink. Roberto mouthed, "Don't show fear." That night, I found chalk in my bed. Walter's sign. I crushed it in my palm. No more circles, no more scripts. Vincent brought gloves, real ones. "If you fall, fall with purpose," he said. My journal was hidden in my sock drawer, just in case. They circled us like wolves, cheering, betting. Lee swung first. I dodged. He landed a jab, then another. My ribs screamed. I didn't swing. I wouldn't. Walter shouted, "Fight like a Whitaker." Lee hesitated. I whispered, "End it." Then I slipped, water spilling from someone's cup. My head hit concrete. Blood pooled fast. Everyone froze. Lee backed away. Walter stepped forward, unsure. "Blood's blood," Vincent said. "Rules are rules." Walter's face twisted. "It doesn't count," he barked, but the circle was silent. Maria stepped forward, holding up the rosary. "Let him go," she said. Her voice didn't shake. I stood dizzy, blood dripping down my temple. Lee stared at me like I'd betray him. Roberto clapped once, sharp, defiant. Others followed. Not many, but enough. Walter clenched his jaw that day. The chalk stayed untouched. I walked out barefoot, bleeding but not broken. Later that night, Walter tried to speak with me, just us in the garage. He held the chalk. "Say something," he demanded. I didn't. I just stared at the stain on the floor. He threw the chalk. "You ruined it." I picked it up, broke it in half, and placed it at his feet, then let it stay broken. I left him there, surrounded by ghosts and silence. He didn't follow. The next morning, Vincent told me Lise left town. No note, just gone. Maria packed her bags too, said she needed air. Roberto started digitizing the scraps we had left. Miguel never returned. Walter, he stayed in that house, alone. The circle grew weeds. The chalk faded, but I kept one piece, tucked in my journal. A reminder, not of fear but of the day the silence finally cracked, and the echoes that followed. Roberto called late that week. Someone leaked the footage. Not the full videos but spliced clips. Twisted to look like we enjoyed it, laughing, fighting, and Miguel's laughter turned sinister under fake music. Walter used it in a town hall meeting, called us rebellious thugs. The town clapped. Roberto was devastated. "They made it propaganda," he whispered. "We built truth, and they turned it into a weapon." I felt sick. That night, I buried my chalk. Vincent returned with a plan. He'd hacked the school servers, replacing morning announcements with uncut videos, raw, unedited proof. "Let them see," he said. We debated for hours. Maria warned us, "They'll hurt you." Roberto nodded. "They're hurting us anyway." That Friday, the screen in homeroom flickered, then screams, then silence. A teacher unplugged the monitor too late. By lunch, everyone was whispering. That night, someone threw paint on Walter's porch. "You lied." Maria was fired from her cleaning job the next week. No reason given. Roberto's mailbox was smashed. Vincent's tire slashed. We met in an abandoned trailer to regroup. Fear smelled like mildew. But that night, Miguel returned with a new phone and footage even we hadn't seen. Walter drunk, confessing, slurred, "I made them fight, I made them men." We watched in silence. Miguel said he gave us our ending. Vincent replied, "Let's write it." We launched the site that weekend. Unedited stories, journal pages, full footage, anonymous names. Real truths. Within hours it spread. Teachers whispered, neighbors stared. Walter's name was tagged in spray paint across the church wall. "Tradition is not violence." A local paper picked it up. They didn't name us but they named him. He denied everything. But the footage didn't lie. I checked the site daily. The hits climbed. We weren't invisible anymore. We were undeniable. Then the town struck back. The site was taken offline. Anonymous threats flooded our inboxes. Someone followed Maria home. Miguel was grabbed outside the store and warned, "Stay silent or disappear again." He cried but didn't stop filming. Vincent installed security cameras. Roberto bought a lockbox for backups. I moved my journal to a public locker under a fake name. The fear returned, but now it had a target. We'd become the threat. Walter called a family meeting. Said it was about healing, said we'd lost our way. Maria refused to attend. Vincent brought a recorder. I sat by the door. Walter wept, real or rehearsed. No one knew. I just wanted strength in my boys. Roberto stood. You wanted control. We left him mid-sentence. That night, I saw him sitting alone in the chalk circle. No chance, no audience, just a man staring at faded lines. We printed posters, quotes from the footage, images from the journals, taped them on walls, school lockers, gas stations. Legacy is not bruises. We remember everything. At first, people tore them down, but new ones went up faster. Then someone else posted one. My brother was forced to. No name, no face, but we knew. Roberto smiled. We started something. Miguel filmed him folding a poster. That clip got over 100,000 views in 2 days. I got called into the principal's office. Stop it, she said, sliding a flyer across the desk. This isn't your fight. I laughed. It's literally mine. She threatened suspension. I recorded her, uploaded it anonymously. It went viral. Students started wearing chalk marks on their wrists, our silent symbol. Some teachers joined. Walter filed a restraining order against Roberto. It didn't stick. The court requested evidence. We sent a flash drive. The judge asked for more. Vincent testified first. Calm, direct, armed with video. Roberto followed, shaking but fierce. I was last. I brought the rosary, the chalk, the journal, held them up like evidence from a war. The judge listened. The room stayed still. When I finished, Walter wouldn't meet my eyes. You broke tradition, he muttered. I answered. Tradition broke us. No verdict came that day. But something shifted. The courthouse doors opened, and cameras waited. We didn't run. Walter collapsed 2 days later. Stroke, they said. Not dead but broken. Maria visited once, left a Bible on his table. Roberto refused. Vincent sent a blank postcard. I mailed a copy of our site printout. No words, just the truth. Miguel filmed it all from the window, from the hallway, from the parking lot. He titled it End of a Circle. It trended in under an hour. One comment read, I see now. The town never apologized. But it stopped whispering. Stores stopped watching us. Teachers started asking questions. A counselor emailed, we want to learn. Maria cried. They couldn't have helped years ago. Roberto started speaking at youth centers. Vincent taught basic editing online. Miguel released a full-length doc. They offered me interviews. Books, podcasts, I declined. My voice was loud enough where it mattered. Instead, I taught my little cousin how to draw, not fight. He smiled. On the anniversary of my last fight, we returned to the circle. It was cracked, faded. Roberto poured paint blue, not red. Vincent brought candles. Miguel filmed again. Maria placed the rosary in the center. We stood in silence. No chants, no speeches, just presence. A new boy approached. Maybe 12. Is it true? He asked. I nodded, but it ends here. He knelt beside us. Miguel whispered, this isn't closure, it's resistance. And we agreed. The library asked for our archive. Roberto refused. He didn't trust them. Instead, we built our own website again. This time with encryption, backups, everything. Vincent ran security. Maria scanned old family photos marked with names and scars. Miguel created timelines. I wrote captions. This is not fiction. One read. We added anonymous testimonies. The site grew, so did the inbox. Survivors, students, journalists. A girl wrote, I thought I was alone. I replied, not anymore. Luis returned in the fall. Older, quieter, he didn't talk to anyone except Maria. They sat on the porch for hours. No one asked what was said. But one morning, Luis walked into the garage, stepped into the chalk circle, and began scrubbing. No words, just motion. Roberto joined him. Then Vincent, then me. Miguel filmed. That video, 4 boys erasing a tradition, went viral in 24 hours. Walter watched from his window, and we didn't stop. After the video, schools invited us. We said no. Instead, we created kids' journals, fake blood tutorials. Cameras, blank posters, tools not rules, we called them. Sent dozens across the state. A teacher emailed, my students are sharing stories now. We cheered quietly together. Maria mailed one to a shelter. Vincent tracked it. It ended up in 3 cities. Miguel said, this is how we win. Not with noise, with seeds. And he was right. Walter's house sold. A young couple moved in, painted the garage, paved the yard. The chalk circle vanished. I drove by once. No ghosts, just grass. Maria cried when I told her it's really over. She said, I shook my head. Not over, changed. The rosary now hung in Roberto's studio. My journal digitized. The pain's still there. But so was the power. We never wanted revenge, just light, just truth, and now we had both. On my 20th birthday, I sat alone, rereading the first journal entry. I don't want to be like them. I smiled. I wasn't outside. Kids played where the fights once echoed. Miguel mailed me a photo. Luis teaching film. Vincent started college. Roberto got a grant. Maria opened a center. I lit a candle. Not for mourning, for memory. The chalk was gone, but the words remained. We survived the circle. We built something better. That night, I visited the old trailer where we planned everything. It was falling apart. Graffiti, vines, silence. I stepped inside. Found our old whiteboard, still faint outlines of strategies, names crossed out, fears. I touched them like they were relics. Miguel's initials, Roberto's drawings, my own words, and it clean. I sat there, feeling everything and nothing, not grief, not anger, just stillness. I left a page behind. We made them listen, then closed the door gently. Maria found me sorting the last batch of journals. Why do you keep every scrap? She asked. I handed her a torn page, Luis's handwriting, shaky, scared because every bruise had a story. She nodded, tucked it into her purse. Later she hung it beside her desk at the center. Let them see it, she said, and they did. Survivors touched it like gospel. Some cried, some stayed silent, but none looked away. That's what mattered. Miguel asked me once, do you regret any of it? I paused. The pain, yes. The silence, never. He nodded like he understood, then handed me a photo, our first poster wall. Untouched. Proof, he said. I framed it, hung it above my desk. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And in the story, that was enough. Every time I looked up, I remembered not all stories end in silence. Some scream, some whisper, all matter. Walter died quietly. No obituary, no funeral, just a note from the nursing home. No known visitors. Maria lit a candle anyway, for closure. She said we didn't celebrate, but we didn't mourn. Roberto published our site's anniversary edition that day. Miguel added a tribute for every child forced to bleed. Vincent wore a shirt with chalk rings crossed out. I mailed one to the shelter. The circle ended, but the story kept echoing. The center expanded, a new staff, more kids. One asked, was it real? Maria pointed to the journals, every word. Roberto led workshops, storytelling, filming, truth. Miguel taught editing. Vincent handled security. I just listened. A girl once handed me a drawing chalk breaking in half. Like your story, she said. I framed it, hung it beside Luis's page. That hallway became sacred. A place where silence ended and voices began. That was the real victory. Now I teach storytelling, not just writing, truth-telling. My first lesson, your voice is armor. The second, don't let them write your ending. Miguel visits sometimes, camera in hand. Roberto sends art. Vincent texts updates. Maria bakes for every new class. Luis, he never returned to the circle, but his name's on the wall. Not for pain, for change. That's how we win, by rewriting the chapters they forced on us. One word, one truth, one voice at a time. Thanks for watching. Subscribe because I believe every story hides a truth, and sometimes just listening can change everything.